Hello and welcome to my bookshelf organization video. So today what I wanted to do is go through my bookshelf. I'm going to put some b-roll of my bookshelves right now because my bookshelves are actually a lot taller than they look on film. They go all the way to the ceiling. And this is kind of like how I have them. I have them like stack up like this. And the problem is that the stacks are getting pretty high. And it's making me nervous because I made this like floating bookshelves. And they are very sturdy. I like drilled them to the studs of the wall. So they're not like flimsy or anything. But I feel like they probably shouldn't take that much weight. Like definitely not like this much. Because this is like 4 or 5 times the amount of books that usually would be in a bookshelf like this. So I want to take some of the weight off, and I also want to document kind of like all the books that I own because I've never really done that. And I have this really bad habit where I'll get like the first and second book in a series from the library, and then I'll kind of get a feeling for the series, and then if I like the series, I'll keep buying the rest of the books. So I'll have like the third, fourth, and fifth book in a series, but not the first and second. Or I'll have like a very weird mishmash where I'll have the third and the fifth book and nothing in between, because I keep getting those from the library, and that is not something bad necessarily, because I do love getting books from my library, and I do like getting a feel for a series before I buy it all. But now that I know I like the series, I kind of want to fill those gaps, and I want to see what gaps I have, because I'm pretty sure I have like multiple gaps in multiple series. So since I have so many few books, I still feel like even all the books that I have are probably like less than $100. I kind of want to go over all the books that I own as well. So yeah, join me as I take all these bookshelves down and basically start from scratch. I closed the curtain because I'm pretty sure I'm like grossly badly lit otherwise, so I'm sorry if I had to like stop the video in the middle. Look, I had a hole in one and this is a ball. Okay, so we're back. I have empty shelves now, and I kind of divided all the books in stacks. So I have my Isaac Asimov stack, then I have my science fiction stack, which is the biggest one if you're surprised. I'm going to put a video overlay to see so you can take a look at the stacks. Then I have my middle grade stack, then I have my romance stack, my regular fantasy stack, then I have my mystery stack, which is surprisingly small. I feel like a lot of mysteries I read but I don't buy. Then I have my books that are not mine. Actually, a lot of the books in that shelf were Joey's. He likes a very particular sort of book, and I'll go through that when I go through all the books. Then I have my haven't read books, which are not as many as other people, but I feel like it's still a lot. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 books, and there's some that I really have no intention of reading whatsoever. And then I have a couple other more. So let's go through all of them. I have my DNF stack too. Not my DNF, my donate stack. Books that I don't necessarily want to keep on my bookshelf and give away to somebody else. So let's get started with my middle grade. Great. Okay, so the middle break books that I own is Frostheart. I really do love this series, but I've only read the first one, but it was really good. And I look forward to reading the next one, especially now that it's winter. And then I have all the Nevermore books. These are one of my favorite series of all time, so I'm super happy to own them, and I'm going to keep them on my shelves. Then the next stack is all my Isaac Asimov books. I have no intention of getting rid of these. These are going to go on my shelf. Some of them are very old editions of Isaac Asimov. They were my grandfather's editions. So I'm going to keep them all, and these are all of them. Sorry, I had to change the angle. So now we're going through all my science fiction books. The first one is Authority by Jeff Vanderbilt. I haven't read this one. So that one's going on my red stack. I'm sorry I missed it. The next one is Starter Villain Support Group, and I really like this one. I'm keeping it. Red Rising, I like this one. I'm keeping it. Land of Milk and Honey, I debated whether or not to get rid of it, but I do think it's pretty interesting, so I'm going to keep it. And then The Three Body Problem. I love this book. I'm going to keep it. It's really floppy too, and I want to get the rest of the series of that book. These are more science fiction books. We have The Future, Thunderhead, which is book 3 in the Size series. I have, actually that one's book 2. So I have The Toll and Thunderhead. So I have book 2 and 3, but not book 1 for some reason. So that's a gap I'm going to have to fill. And then I have Aurora Rising and Aurora Burning. I like these books. I didn't really continue on the series, but I do like Jake Kristoff, so I probably will keep this for now. So the next one's Children of Time. I want to keep that. I want to buy the next one. The first one, then it's Annihilation, which is the first book of the, what is the series called? The Southern Reach trilogy. Then I have A Prayer of the Crown Shy. This is book 2. I need to find book 1. I'm missing book 1 of this duology. It's really good. And then I have Illuminae. I have read all the books in this series, but I only own book 1. So again, something I have to correct, hopefully sometime soon. Now we have the romances. So we have Heartstopper Volume 1. I only have Volume 1, even though I've read the entire thing. I have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I'm keeping this one. And The Fine Print. I've read the entire series. I only own book 1. And Love in the Time of Serial Killers. I don't love this book, but I do like this cover, so I'm going to keep it. Icebreaker and Wildfire. So I have both of them, and by Hannah Grace. This was one of my favorite books of last year. And hopefully I'll keep buying the series so I actually own them all. Are they slightly different sizes? They're like slightly different sizes. That's kind of annoying. And I have a Holly Jolly Ever After. I really do not like this book, but I kind of do like the cover, so I'm keeping it. And then we have the mysteries. I own 3 mystery books. Even though last year I read over 25 mysteries, I own 3. So the first one is Still Life. This one's really good by Lois Penny. La Hacienda, I have this version in Spanish, so I want to keep it. And then The Hand on the Wall, which I believe is book 3 in the Truly Devious series. I've read all of them. I only own this one. So now we're doing my fantasies. So we have this book by a fellow YouTuber, The Savior's Champion. I really did like it. It's independently published. I'm going to get the rest. I think the new one comes out this year, so I'm going to get it to complete my series. Then we have Dark Dawn by Jake Kristoff in this really weird edition. I believe this might be the UK edition. I don't even know how I own this. And it is book 3 in the series. I have no idea, but I've read the entire series and I only own this one. So then we have 2 books by TJ Klune, Under a Whispering Door and The House in the Cerulean Sea. I've read the other book by TJ Klune, The House of the Puppets, I believe it's called, or something like that. But it's only out in hardback, so I'm waiting for the paperback to come out. So that'll be exciting. That's kind of what happens a lot of the time. Like, I'll have these 2 books in paperbacks, and I will have to wait till the hardbacks comes out for the new book, and I will forget, and I'll never get it. So that's why my collection is a little bit iffy, to say that, to be nice about it. Then we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is a standalone, so I'm pretty good there. And then I have Before the Devil Breaks You, which is part of the Diviner series. And I think this is book 3. I've read the entire series. I only own book 3. So these might be the nicest books that I own. I own Fourth Wing in the special Christmas edition, and I own Iron Flame in the special Black Edges edition from, I think I got them both from Target, and they're gorgeous and I really do like them, so I'll obviously. The Serpent and the Wings of Night, this is one of the books I recently finished. It's so gorgeous on the back cover. I'm gonna keep it. Then I have A Winter's Promise and The Missing Claire de Lune. I don't know. I've read this one. I haven't read this one. I really like this one, so I think I'm gonna read it this winter because it's a very wintry book. This is a great like fantasy, but young adult fantasy set in a winter setting. It's a French translation. I do recommend it, and yeah, they're gorgeous covers too. Then we have The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence and On These Black Sands. This is a pirate romance, and this one is about an infinite library. Both books that I read, both books that I love, and they're only one out, so I'm good in that one. The only 2 books that I have that are set in like our world that is not mysteries are Yellowface, which is kind of a thriller. This one's about an author that stole another author's work and made it go as her own, and it kind of has some thrilling elements, but I'm counting it as not a thriller. And this one is The Great Circle, a book that I have not read, so that one's added to the pile of books that I haven't read. So this is a pile of books that I haven't read. We can go through them. So we have The Great Circle. We just talked about that one. Then we have The Missing Cerulean, which is the next book in a series that I haven't finished. This book I actually have no intention of reading. It's just very pretty. It has this gold edges. It is the Arabian Nights. So I've read some stories of this book, but I haven't read it in its entirety, and I don't think I'm gonna anytime soon. Another pretty book that I have no intentions of reading, but I'm keeping, is the Hans Christian Andersen tales. I've read a couple of the tales in here, but it's really like pretty leather bound book, so I'm keeping it because it's pretty. Then I have another short story collection by Isaac Asimov. I've read all of its work, and I read some of the stories in here, but this book is just so dense, I'll probably not finish it anytime soon either. So now we have some classic books in Spanish that I own that my dad gave to me. So this is Cien Años de Soledad by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I believe this translates to 100 Years of Solitude. I've read about 80% of this book like 5 or 6 times. I just can't get past. Look, I even have like a little mark in there of when I read it last. I just get bored and I don't like this book and I'm tired of trying, but it is a version in Spanish and it is really pretty, so I'm keeping it. And then the other Gabriel Garcia Marquez that I have is La Increíble y Triste Historia del Cándida Heredita y su Abuela Desalmada. I've read this short story, I don't know what's here. And I don't like it, but I'm also not going to get rid of it. And then this one is Francisco Pérez de Antón, Los Hijos del Incienso y de la Pólvora. I might read this one soon. So then we have Authority, which is a book by the Southern Ridge trilogy that I do want to read. This book I DNF'd, but I'm keeping it because my boyfriend gave it to me and it's a very pretty cover. And The Red House by Mark Harden. I've read the Curious Incident at the Dock in the Nighttime before, so I do want to read this one. Then we have The Catcher in the Rye. I read this book before, but I want to reread it, so this is going to go in my read books. And then we have 2 books that are for book clubs that are not quite here yet. So The Will of the Many and Translation Estate are for my science fiction book club and for my fantasy book club. The book club doesn't meet till like 2 months from now, but I did get the book because you get it on a discount if you buy it on the last session of the previous book club. So I bought it, but I have no plans of reading it till we're closer to the date because I read a lot of books and I'll forget the plot if I read it right now. So yeah, out of all my unread books, these are the only ones that I really have an intention of actually reading. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books. And the rest ones are like pretty books or sentimental books that somebody special gave me that I don't want to get rid of, but I also don't have any solid plans of reading anytime soon. Okay, these 2 books don't really have a category to go with. I guess this could be like science fiction, speculative. I don't know, this book is a weird one. But Stuart writes really weird books is The Devil and the Dark Water, and then we have The Disappearing Spoon, which is a non-fiction about science and the periodic table. And these are all of my boyfriend's books, and they have a really funny theme. So these are all books about cooking, but not necessarily like recipes. They're just about cooking, and he loves that. So I'm gonna go through all of them. So here we have the Complete Meat Maker Guide. I swear that he has tried to make meat before. Then we have The Science of Cooking. Then we have The Vinegar Maker's Handbook. Then we have Dave Chang's memoir. I've read this one, it's really good. Dave Chang is a really famous chef that we both really like, and he has a great podcast. Next we have this one called Hungry. No idea. Again, one that I have no idea is called Heat. Then we have The Devil in the Kitchen, Sous Chef, Kitchen Confidentials, and Medium Raw. So if there's a book about cooking and a famous chef, he will probably get it. So that is his niche. And then the other niche that we have here is a book about physics. So we have Carl Sagan's Cosmos, Neil deGrasse Tyson's Origins, and the last one we have is Relativity by Albert Einstein. So yeah, definitely different book tastes, but I do keep all of his books in the bookshelf because it's our bookshelf. So yeah, so those are all the books that I own. So I'm going to count them all and I'm going to put them back in the shelf and I'm going to show you how it looks at the end. Okay, I think we're done. So I actually ended up with a lot less books. Like it looked a lot fuller before than it does now. But I think that's good. So I'm going to show you the books that I'm going to DNF as well. Like the books that I'm going to on haul, not DNF, I'm sorry, are Mr. Dickens. I got this as a Secret Santa and I never read it. Then I got I Say I Boo. I got this book because it was independently published and I followed the author, but I didn't really love it. Forever Ain't Enough. This book is really good. A friend of mine wrote it, but I wanted to get seen by more people, so I'm going to put it in a little free library so more people can read it. Accidental Magic. This book was just not great, but it's pretty good. It was just not my vibe. And then the last two books are pretty terrible. So this one is The Long Game by Elena de Armas. I hate this book. And the other one is Nothing But Black and Teeth. This is the worst book I've ever read. And it's this short and it was painful. So yeah, those are the books that I'm DNFing and DNFing 5. So let me just get the camera out of my tripod and I'll give you a tour. I start down here with my to be read card. So we have all the books that I talked about wanting to read pretty soon. They ended up being 2, 4, 6, 8 books that are on my current like TBR, own TBR. And then I'll show you how I ended up organizing my bookshelf. So first we have here, up here we have the Isaac Asimov shelf. So we have all his works in order of how I read them, and there's a lot of debate of how you're supposed to read these books, but I read them not in publication order. I read them how he said that they were supposed to be read. And then here we have some nonfiction. So we have some science nonfiction, and then we have some cooking nonfiction, followed by the books that I haven't read, but I want to keep. They're all my pretty books that are in Spanish. Over here we have my science fiction shelf. I'll give you a little look. So as end tables or end corners, I have the Science Trilogy. I need to get the first book. And then we have some books that I've read recently, all science fictions. And then over here we have Aurora Rising and Aurora Burning as my other bookend. So those are my science fictions. And at the end we have 3 mysteries because I couldn't figure out where else to put them. And then over here we start with fantasy. So we have some middle grade fantasy, and then we go a little bit more adult as you go to the left. So we have Frostheart, and then we start with being a little bit more adult. And these are all pretty much adult all the way through. So these are my fantasies. And then we have the romance / contemporary shelf. So we have some of my romances here, and the last couple of them are more contemporary. I don't know where to put it though in the dark water. I'm still debating. So yeah, those are my shelves. They look so naked now. And yeah, that is still board games. So yeah, those are the shelves. Okay, so final update. I own 59 books. Books that I have no intention of reading are 4 extra books. So I'm keeping them just because they're pretty. Books that I'm getting rid of, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. I'm getting rid of 5 books. And I want to read, I have in my own TBR, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books. So I have 8 books that I haven't read in my collection. And this is kind of like, I did this on purpose in a lot of ways because I knew that I was going to move a lot throughout college and throughout like my young adult life, so I didn't want to form this huge collection. I had to like log around everywhere because it seemed really annoying. So I'm gonna show you what I do in order to read so much, because I have read over 300 books, and like last year I read 58 books. I've read more books just like last year that they are in my entire shelf, which seems pretty crazy. But yeah, so I'm gonna show you really quickly how I get a lot of books for free. So a lot of these things are not necessarily like free, they're more like subscription service. And the first two are Kindle Unlimited and Scrib, now known as Everand. They're both apps. Kindle Unlimited will give you unlimited amount of books, but they will only give you certain books. Like authors have to sign up to be in Kindle Unlimited. And because of that, they're free to you with your like subscription, but you don't have access to all the books that are on Kindle, if that makes sense. And then Scrib has a similar thing. It's very much like Netflix for books. You pay a subscription, but they do limit the amount of books you can read. I have had this happen to me where like certain new releases are unavailable till like next month because I kind of like use all my new release credits. Like you can read other books that are older that they have, but you're not allowed to read like 4 or 5 new releases. You have to kind of like vary what you're reading in the app. And then I have Chirp. Chirp is completely paid. They're just like books that you buy, but it's for audiobooks. It's kind of a competitor to Audible, which I also have. So they're kind of competitors to each other, but Chirp is not part of the Amazon umbrella. So I do like Chirp sometimes because I don't necessarily agree with all the business practices of Audible. So I like to buy some things from Chirp. But again, I do have Audible because I have an excellent library in Audible. I've been a subscriber, like I stopped my subscription, but I have had Audible for like over 10 years now. I probably started it in like 2013-14. So in Audible, I own 122 books and I have all 14 badges. So I have a ton of books that I have digitally that I don't have in my shelves. And then I also have a ton of books that I read digitally through my library that I don't necessarily like have, or books that I borrowed from my library. But for me, it's more common to borrow books digitally from my library, and I do that through 2 apps, Hoopla and Libby. Libby is really good at having like all the new stuff, but the hold times are crazy. So if you want a book that you want to read and you know is pretty popular, you probably will be on hold for like 4 to 8 weeks. I've been on hold for like 12 weeks sometimes, and that is kind of crazy for a book. So sometimes I like Libby because they will have like everything. They really have every book, but whether or not you want to wait for it is your own business. And sometimes I really don't want to wait for it, and other times I'm cool with waiting, and other times there's no wait at all. So that's pretty good about Libby. The other one is Hoopla. Hoopla's library is incredibly small, but they do have a lot of insta borrows. That means that there's no hold time and that you can get them on your device immediately. And I love that because a lot of the older titles, a lot of the classics will be in like the Insta Borrow library, and sometimes a lot of popular books become like Insta Borrows because like the library pays extra to the publisher to get them as like Insta Borrows, so they have like unlimited supply of that book, so you don't have to be on hold forever. So yeah, so I really like Hoopla, but again, smaller library. I like Libby, but you have to wait a long time sometimes. I like my library. I sometimes even want to read something physical. If it's like, a lot of the time I read mysteries in physical, and I'll read books in mixed media physically. There are reasons why I sometimes end up borrowing my book from my library. And then Audible, not great. Same with Kindle Unlimited, not great because they're part of the Amazon umbrella, but I have used them and they do work great, and you can get a ton of books on Kindle Unlimited, especially those trashy romances. I've read pretty much all of my trashy romances on Kindle Unlimited because like I don't necessarily want to own that book. It wouldn't look pretty on my bookshelf. Sometimes like the covers are really cringy, but the book is really good, so I like to read it on Kindle Unlimited. And then Chirp and Everland. Chirp is just a normal buying service. You really can just pay for the book that you get. So that's really good because you own the book. Then with Everland, you're paying to borrow books. And yeah, those are all the things that I use in order to read pretty much between 50 and 100 books a year and to keep my collection pretty small. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I thought it was informative. Please let me know of books that I should read or I should get.